Good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in to this yin yoga video. This is the last new moon of 2021. So, of all the new moon kind of lower energy classes, this one is also the darkest. So, we'll spend the second half of class really kind of tuning in and restful poses, and we'll spend the first half of class doing some poses just to help get that tension, that stress out of the body. For props, have something soft to kneel on. So an extra blanket that you can fold up and put underneath you. A throw pillow is always good to have. And then if you have a couple blocks, have those. Something to sit on would be good. And we're going to get started in a supported hero's pose. We're going to be there for probably 5 to 7 minutes. So you want it to be a really comfortable hero's pose. If kneeling is uncomfortable in any way, build something up underneath your seat, 2 blocks, bolster, whatever you have to do so that you don't have so much flexion behind the knees. And then underneath the shins, the part of the body that's actually making contact with the ground, make that soft too. That's a good opportunity for that blanket. Soft blanket to kneel on. I'm going to grab my block to sit on. And we'll start before we go into a few minutes of stillness, few minutes of meditation. We'll work into the arms and the shoulders and neck just a little bit. Okay? So as the lower body is settled, go ahead and take your right arm out to the side. Bring the back of the hand to the lower back. Just imagine and bring your awareness into that right shoulder as it settles down away from the ear. Keeping our chin pulled back, it tends to kind of creep out forward. Keeping the chin pulled back, we'll let the left ear drop to the left shoulder, and the left arm can rest wherever you like. As long as it feels comfortable, see if you can keep your lips gently closed and breathe in and out through your nose. Keeping our left ear dropped towards our left shoulder. See if you can just bring your gaze down and over to the left, and then up and over to the right. And go back and forth one more time, slow. And then we'll bring the head back up to center and we'll release the right arm. And before we drop to the left side, let's do some shoulder rolls with the right side going back, up, back, and down. And then the left arm will come out with the thumb facing down, bending at the elbow back of the hand to the lower back. Letting my left shoulder settle down, keeping my chin in. I'll let the right ear drop to the right shoulder. And just let your breath be easy in and out through the nose. It doesn't have to be fast, but make sure that you're not holding your breath and your inhales turn to exhales and your exhales turn to inhales without any pause. then we'll start that slow and subtle movement of letting our gaze and our chin turn down and to the right and then up and to the left. And after your next rotation, the head can come back up. You can let your left arm release. And then let's do the shoulder rolls with the left side, up, back, and down. All right, now we're going to go into a brief meditation where we just try to calm and quiet the mind a little. So if hero's pose is comfortable, go ahead and stay in your hero's pose. This is a nice time to adjust if you need to. And then we'll come back into stillness of body, stillness of mind. It helps me and many folks to close the eyes, but you can keep the gaze to one thing with the eyes open as long as we don't kind of jet the gaze around the room. Nowhere to go, nothing to solve or perfect, nothing to do or analyze, just watching our breath. If the eyes are closed, you can go ahead and open them up. And then we're going to bring our hands forward, come into a tabletop pose. We'll stay kneeling, and you might keep the prop behind you in between your feet for the next pose. We're going to take a child's pose. Now, with this variation, the intent is for the knees to be a little bit parted, but not wide to the edges of your mat. So see if you can find a little middle ground there. I'll bring the toes as close together as I can get them behind me. If I'm keeping my prop there, they may not touch. And then as I sit back, I'm going to rest my torso on the top of my thighs, which will give me a nice little round to my spine. And then I'll either rest my head to a block or let it hang. Press the palms down to lift the torso. Take the knees a little bit wider and we'll come into a wide leg twisting variation of child's pose. I'll take my right arm and thread it under my left. Let my right shoulder rest down to the mat or some sort of prop. And then you can rest your forehead or your temple down to a block, or you could rest it on your left forearm. Time of year, this new moon and the last one of the year. It's a time of rest, and to rest, we need to have a sense of peace, right? Acceptance with what happened and what is. At peace with what might be ahead, so that we can just be. Switch sides, unthreading the right arm, threading the left under. Practicing the peace and practicing the rest in this pose might mean that if a pose isn't working for you, just finding a peaceful way to sit or lie down to practice the rest and the letting go. We'll unthread, left arm, press down, come back through our tabletop. We'll get ready for a seated pose. We're going to take figure 4 with stargazing arms. So this is a pose that when we're sitting, We can lean back a little bit, which sometimes means that whatever is underneath our seat doesn't have to be as high. And as we lean back for this first variation, see if you can have the fingertips facing your seat. And then for the second side, we'll switch it up. And we'll go ahead and cross the right ankle to the left thigh. And if that's already turning on some sensation in your hips, there's nothing else to do. If you want the challenge of going a little bit deeper, if you need to intensify, you can bend the left leg so that the foot comes to the ground. And the head could do whatever it feels like doing. That might need upright, could be letting the chin drop to the chest, or the opposite. You could let it hang back like you're looking at the stars. The head back to neutral. Let the right foot come down on the ground. Before we take Stargazer on the other side, we're going to do one more pose. So still with both feet to the mat, let both of your knees fall to the left. And as you come into left, it takes us into a deer pose shape. Right? You can see I have my left shin kind of making the top of an S, my right leg making the back of an S. And now to come to the twist pose, I'm going to twist so that I'm looking behind me. And you might stay up on your fingertips. This could be a great shape to pull your both bolster or some blocks so you can rest down onto your forearms or your abdomen, or you might even bring your forearms down to the ground. Remember, the right variation for you for any yin pose is the one where you can feel some sensation of the area, but you can be at ease and your body's not trying to tense or pull away from the pose. So if you make your shape exactly like mine and your body feels too stressed out, that's when you reach for your puffs. Make it more comfortable, right? And again, being more peaceful in the pose than letting go of an idea of what the perfect pose should look like. Down on your forearms, press down so that you can lift the torso. And then we'll untwist, coming back into our Stargazer pose. This time the fingers will be pointed behind, right? So towards the back of the mat in the opposite direction. And you might bring your legs long to start. We'll go ahead and cross the left ankle to the right thigh. And depending on how much sensation we need to add to get some sensation in that left hip, you could bend the left knee some, bringing the heel or maybe the foot to the ground. As you settle the lower body, decide what will feel nice for the gaze, even if it's different than something you did on the first set. And the head can come back to neutral. We'll bring the left leg down and then we'll come into our deer twist. So once we have both feet to the mat, the knees now will drop to the right. We'll twist towards the back of the mat and decide if we stay on our palms, if we come down to a prop, or maybe if we come down to the mat. The second side, press the palms down and start to untwist. We're going to change our orientation for the next few poses, coming into a prone shape down on our abdomen. So I'm going to move my props aside, but maybe push them towards the top of the mat so that they're in reach in case I need them. And we're going to come into a baby sphinx variation called Spider-Man, where as we lay down onto our abdomen, we reach our arms forward. Right? And this might seem simple, but it's actually very, it's a rebel pose when we consider the things we do with our arms all day, right? We hardly ever have them up overhead. So this is a great way to work our range of motion without taxing us muscularly, right? And because we're not taxed muscularly, the shoulders tend to be more okay with this than say we were standing and doing this pose. But with that said, if this is bothering your shoulders at all, take the arms a little bit wider into a V, see if that helps. If not, you could bring a slight bend to the elbow, but try to reach them as forward as you can without any kind of pinging impingement in the shoulders, and then rest the head however you see fit, maybe to the ground, or you could use a prop. From here, we'll lift the head and come into a more moderate variation of Sphinx, bringing our arms back a little bit further, bringing some bend to the elbow. So we have a little lift of the chest and thus a little bit of compression in the spine. And allow your body to take the shape that seems to need to take today. If that's coming into a deeper variation, a lower variation, if that means letting the head be lifted or hanging, and just accept that, right? With this knowing that our body knows best, right? Above anything in our head that says it should be this way or that. Stay as you are. You can come out of the pose slightly if you need to, or if you think going deeper would be nice, would be welcomed by your body, you can come into seal pose where the palms press and the arms lift and straighten. Keep tuning into your breath to listen and know if it's too much for your body. The mind sometimes will trick us. We know it's tricking us if we notice that the breath may be starting to move faster or more shallow, or we were holding our breath. If you haven't done so already, start to lower closer to the ground, coming into baby crocodile, resting the forehead to the back of the hands as the elbows are wide. Give your lower back some nice breath or knee counters by rocking the hips or bending the knees and lifting the feet and moving the legs side to side. We can make ourselves really busy by keep doing all the things that we think we should do. And it can be nice before we take a counter or movement, before we go deeper, to tune into that breath, to listen to the body, to see what the body says as far as if it's needed, if it's necessary. Right? More isn't always better, and it can be the path to burning out. So always stay, always be still, right? Even if maybe I'm suggesting something else. Okay. We're going to flip ourselves over and come onto our back. And it could be really nice to try to do that while you're laying down, kind of rolling yourself over as a nice functional movement that we want to make sure, is simple, but we never lose it. So if we use it, we won't lose it. And we're going to come into a waterfall pose variation. So I'm going to take the block and I'm going to bring it underneath the back of my sacrum. I'm going to bring my arms into a bull pose shape, or maybe they extend back behind me a little bit more. That's okay for your shoulder. You could do that too. And then one leg at a time, I'll dangle them up towards the ceiling. Before we come out of the pose for a few breath cycles, see if it feels okay to let the knees bend and to let the thighs fall towards the chest. And one leg at a time, we'll bring the feet to the ground, keeping the block behind us. We'll come into a supported bridge. And we technically are already doing supported bridge once we bring the feet down. You might decide to go deeper with the arms in your bridge, maybe extending the arms straighter overhead, but remember, you can always bend the elbows slightly. You can always take the arms into that wide view, and deciding if we'll go a little bit more forward with the feet, see how that feels on the spine. You can always keep some bend to the knees if that feels best. And taking a couple minutes here just to open up the front body and send it some nice breath. Coming out of bridge, we'll bring some bend back to the knees. Once I have my feet planted to the ground, I can carefully lift the hips so that I can slide the block out of the way and bring the sacrum back down. For our next pose, we're going to come into a side bend. We're going to do banana asana. So I'm going to move myself over to the left side of the mat, create some working space for myself over here to the right. Now, banana is a side bend, and one of the things that tends to happen when we go too deeply into the pose is the body starts to twist with the left shoulder peeling up off the ground. So see if you can find a variation of your side bend where you have both shoulders to the ground, both hips to the ground. So I'll start by moving my feet over to the right, and you could keep the feet parallel or decide to cross the legs one ankle over the other. Then I'll move my shoulder blades over to the right, but probably not as much as you'd think. Just a little bit of movement can create a nice opening up at the left side of the body. And then I could bring my arms into a goalpost shape. See and know that my left shoulder is still down, right? If I'm lifting, my left arm might lift off the ground. So you can always keep your arms into this goalpost. If you can keep your left arm on the ground, but bring it overhead, you might be able to hold the right arm, the left wrist with the right hand. And there's no right or wrong way to gaze. It could be left, it could be right, it could be down, it could be up. We'll start to come out of the first side, bringing arms down, coming out of the side bend. And you could rebend the knees in order to move yourself over to the other side of your mat. Now coming into our side bend to work the right side of the body. My feet will go over left. Both of my hips stay planted down on the ground. I could cross one leg over the other. And my shoulder blades move a little bit over to the left. Right? And when I play with my arm variations, making sure I have my shoulder down to the ground, my arms supported, and seeing how much overhead motion I have there before it becomes too much. And come back to a neutral laying down position as you come out of your banana pose. You could keep the legs long or rebend the legs, whatever feels nice. All right, for our last pose, we're going to take a fish variation where we work into the chest, the arms, the forearms, and the wrists, right? Often our forearms get so tight they really can pull on our wrist muscles. The muscles in the palms of our hands can get so tight. We kind of need to release and open up some of that tension, and we can do so by using the weight of our body to kind of open up our hands and to give a nice massage to our forearms. So my hands will come alongside me, and then I'm going to walk my thumbs and my wrist just partially underneath the sides of my seat. You notice how that kind of straightens your arms, and you might feel that opens up the inner arm line and also across the chest. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can, walking your arms further. You might walk your arms so much that your thumbs are touching underneath you. That can be pretty extreme, but if it feels nice, you could go for it. And if at any point it becomes too much, you can let your arms just come out slightly. And then you might keep the legs bent with the feet to the mat, or you could let them come long. Now, as they come long, it will pull you a little bit into a back bend. You might feel your elbows bend underneath you slightly. That's okay, but no need to force them to do that. And then we get a little bit of opening as the head drops back slightly. We'll start to come out of fish pose. Rebend the knees if they're not already. Slowly let the arms come out. And then we'll end in a starfish pose, right, or kind of snow angel pose. You can let the arms a little bit further away from your body with the palms facing up. And then we'll go ahead and take props. Maybe it's your bolster, maybe it's your block, and put it behind the knees. Let the legs be a little bit wider apart than normal. And we'll take one more shot at letting any last bits of tension come out of the body as we do a little guided relaxation. So as I call out an area of your body, you can bring your awareness there and see if you can soften any tension, starting with the back of our head. In the back of the neck. In the right shoulder blade. The right upper arm. The right lower arm. And the right hand. The left shoulder blade. The left upper arm. The left lower arm. And the left hand. The back of the right hip. The right upper leg. The right lower leg. And the right foot. The left hip. The left upper leg. The left lower leg. And the left foot. The back of the head. And the right hand. And the right foot. And the left foot. And the left hand. The back of the head. A few moments to rest our mind and our body in stillness. Bring some small movement back into your fingers and your toes and your wrists and your ankles. Some bend back into the knees, and you can give them a hug. Take some rock side to side. Eventually you will either roll to fetal shape, or you can come to one side and roll up to a seat. Just notice the stillness and the calm in your body and your mind as you come upright. Bring hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra, with gratitude for all that we have. Together we breathe in and exhale out. Namaste. Very much for joining me. Please remember this last month, last moon of the year, that we can be still, right? We don't need to have everything in order to rest. So take care and have a wonderful evening.